Hello everyone, I'm Surya. Welcome to Sounds of Awakening. This podcast offers a direct experiential doorway to the all-illuminating mystic realm, blending soundscapes with poetic and informative word. Both ancient and modern visions of seekers and saints are sonically revealed. Wherever you are right now, it's a blessing to be with you, united in sound. Good morning and a happy Guru Purnima. Today, on the day that this episode is released, it is the annual great celebration of the Guru, or the teacher. A perfect moment to reflect on a topic that seems to be very relevant today. In times where a growing number of Western people believes we're better off without a guru, meanwhile one guru scandal after the other comes to the surface. Is there still a place for the guru and spiritual authority in the 21st century? Let's find it out. On my last trip to India last year, I ended up in Rajasthan with a guy named Aloo Baba. Aloo means potato, so he's the potato Baba, or potato guru. Physically not much more than skin and bones with a long white beard, Aloo Baba restricted his diet to nothing else than, guess what, potatoes. For over 30 years now he lives on potatoes. His simple home is located on a beautiful remote hilltop next to an ancient Shiva temple, and the only sound there is the symphony of hundreds of wild peacocks parading around the temple. I spent a day with him, and mostly with his close devotee Annapurna, a rather young Indian guy. When I asked Annapurna what he had learned so far from Aloo Baba, he responded, "Nothing. I've learned nothing. My Guruji, my dear master, teaches me nothing. I don't learn here," he said. It's rather a process of releasing every day and returning to nothingness. Annapurna told me he started to only eat potatoes as well, just like his guru. He told me, one meal, one place, and one guru. It's that simple. This, I believe, is a perfect example of the dedication and devotion I so often witnessed during all of the years that I spent in India. Not moving an inch from that one remote hilltop, with only one food item to consume, and only one teacher that doesn't even feed him with information or practices. That's devotion. That's dedication. The Guru Gita, an ancient Sanskrit text, states, quote, "One God, one religion, one faith is the highest austerity. There is nothing higher than the Guru," unquote. There is nothing higher than the Guru. It's a sharp contrast with a modern-day spiritual consumerism, where the seeker hops within no time from one cacao ceremony to the next, stretches her body in a fitness room under the name of yoga, becomes a yoga teacher after completing a 14-day online yoga teacher training, and earns $200 for activating her client's Kundalini energy. Rarely do Western spiritual seekers stop for a moment to question, where does this all come from really? On the modern-day spiritual market, there seems to be an almost total lack of acknowledgement and honoring of deeply rooted tradition. You know, teachings that have been passed on for millennia because they work. It's a sharp contrast with New Age spirituality. This is the free, wild West. Everything is possible. You can do whatever you want. And if you brand it well and you hacked the algorithm of Instagram, you become a famous and rich influencer. Wearing spiritual clothes, rambling disembodied spiritual slogans. Who are you listening to? Your inspirational sources, your teachers, do they walk their talk? Who were their teachers? Did they have a teacher? Hold on a minute, should we have a teacher? Isn't the true guru to be found within? Aren't gurus abusive power addicts anyway? In the 21st century, is there still any place for a guru? Guru is a heavy word. One of the literal translations from Sanskrit actually is heavy, but in the sense of deep, serious, and heavily loaded with wisdom. In the Western world, guru is a heavy word for a different reason. In an era where one popular guru after the other appears to be more of a criminal than a saint, there is little trust in spiritual authority. People wonder, does the era of the guru belong to the past? Should we abandon an authority like this once and for all? And thus, Western spiritual seekers easily either reject spiritual authority entirely or proclaim to be their own guru, while others stay oblivious or even turn a blind eye to the guru's abuse. Or, by now, did we place ChatGPT on the guru's throne? Chat Guru PT, right? Is AI the new guru? I'll keep the last topic for another episode. But either way, unless one of these Western approaches is very much nuanced, the outcome might be very problematic and bear heavy consequences. There must be a middle way, isn't it? So, please tell me, where can I surrender? Who can I trust? Do I need a guru? And if I need one, who is it? Or what is it? Let's investigate this topic and aim to reach the core of this issue. First of all, why is it that, generally speaking, Western people are skeptical about gurus? Well, where do we come from? I'm living in Belgium, and my ancestors have been dominated by the Church Institute for many centuries, far over a millennium even. I don't think I have to explain any further that domination is the right term here. Let me just shortly drop a few reminders, like burning witches, Inquisition, torture of heathens, eradication of indigenous cultures, and, closest to us today, the sexual abuse of children by the very saintly people themselves. Especially this last one is still very fresh in our memory. So, for many of us, serving a godly person equals serving a power-hungry, abusive authority. And then these gurus from India, Tibet, and so forth came along, brought here and received well by the hippies of the 60s. Or earlier by some figures of the Theosophical Society. And there came a wave of hope and a revival of dedication towards spiritual authority. Maybe these gurus are different. And of course they were, bringing the eternal teachings of yoga, tantra, Advaita Vedanta and so on. But maybe they're also more saintly because they are called the enlightened gurus. And thus they are free from any of this religious and abusive and sexual madness we encountered. After all, how can a fully perfected being even think about something like sexual abuse? And yet... it's not just the Wild West story of Osho. Only recently, I mean very recently, especially since around 2018 or so, one painful, often horrible revelation after the other. Do you dare to look at this reality? Yogi Bikram, the founder of Hot Yoga, built an American multi-million-dollar yoga empire and is accused for sexual harassment and actual rape of several of his young female devotees. Sai Baba is known for serious sexual abuse of young boys. He believed it to be karmic cleansings. Yogi Bhajan, founder of the famous modern Kundalini Yoga, raped several of the children of his devotees within the frame of tantric energy exchange or divine blessing. Within his global organization called 3HO, Western devotee parents were motivated and often pressured to send their children to India, often being merely 5 years old, to attend Yogi Bhajan's boarding schools. And some of these girls that grew older became his personal assistants, having to perform night work for him. Pratabi Joyce, founder of Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga, is known for sexual assault to young women over the period of decades. The seemingly celibate Muktananda sexually abused teenagers or young women within so-called tantric initiations. And very much the same happened with the Tibetan Lama Sogyal Rinpoche, the Romanian Swami Vivekananda Saraswati, the Indian Swami Satchitananda, and the list goes on and on and on. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Jesus cried out when the Romans were about to crucify him. They know not what they do. Mother, forgive them, because although these guys must have had some great gifts, clearly something went seriously off. Clearly, they were not the enlightened, perfected beings they thought themselves to be. Their crimes are painful examples of the deep damage that can be caused by people who present themselves as fully liberated when they are clearly not. It's painful, and so I get it. I really get it why Western people are so turned off by the idea of a guru. In very much the same way, people in the West turned their backs to the church after the exposure of all the power games and sexual abuse, and so people threw the baby out with the bathwater. Yes, there was a baby in there. There was a treasure inside of the church, inside of the devotional prayer, within the resonances of the choir, inside of the silence in the chapel. There was a treasure, and out of fury and outrage, people threw away not only the abusive authority, but the baby included. More and more people start to wake up to this realization. Just as much as we need food, we do need devotional practice. And we need shared spaces and shared spiritual practice. And could it be so that modern-day Western people, including most spiritual seekers, are throwing out yet another baby? I get it, the bathwater here is really dirty, and more dirt is coming to the surface. But could we maybe save the baby? So what could possibly be the baby? And what is the dirty water? Is it humanity itself? Is humanity different from divinity? How can we distinguish the baby from the dirty water? Please tell me, what is the baby, the jewel, in the Guru narrative? There must be a jewel. This is a personal story. Years ago, in the foothills of the Himalayan mountains, I was participating in an intensive course of Tantra Yoga. In their free time, all of the teachers of that course would be as much as possible in the presence of a so-called enlightened being that was residing very near the school. Rumors about this enlightened guru had been reaching my ears earlier as well. A living Buddha, a rare jewel in our modern age. I was intrigued about the idea and possibility of enlightenment since the day I heard about it. And meeting a living Buddha seemed like a dream coming true. I'll never forget this first satsang community meeting that I attended here. I felt magnetically pulled to this place, as if I was swimming with the tide of the river. Suddenly, every movement felt effortless, and I flowed into the hall, the ocean it seemed, in which a whole bunch of devotees had gathered around one being. Everything and everyone seemed to be centered around him. As I entered this space, I felt utterly different. There was an indescribable power present here. And the closer I went to this being, the more intensified this power seemed to be. I looked at the Guru, and all of a sudden, I didn't perceive matter anymore as I did before. All simply vibrated. And the border between the physical body, emotions, mind and energy seemed to dissolve entirely. This human being seemed to emanate a consciousness that filled and guarded the entire space. This guru seemed to be the entire space itself, including everyone that bathed in it. The group of devotees seemed to be part of that one superconscious being. Deeply devotional singers and high-vibrating sitar strings seemed to be part of it. A divine fragrance of incense filled my being and seemed to be perfectly synchronized with the devotional music. It all appeared to me as a divine orchestration. Before even a word was spoken, my girlfriend from that time started to cry, and she continued without any reason until the end of the satsang. And then when all words of that gathering had been spoken by the Guru, there was the time for a daily ritual they called pranam. As much people as possible lined up for the Guru to eventually bow and drop down at his feet. A discomfort creeped up on me. Who is he to actually bow for? Isn't this dangerous? Isn't this stupidity? I felt tense, and yet I thought to give it a try. As I shuffled closer and closer to the Guru, my heart pounded faster and faster. With every centimeter closer, the energy intensified drastically, and suddenly I fell on my knees. Guru Sharanam Hari Sharanam Sache Sharanam Prabhu Sharanam Guru Sharanam Sharanam Sache Sharanam Prabhu Sharanam. I drop down, I fall, I surrender, I surrender it all. All of my pride, all of my fear, all of my doubts, I surrender right here. All of my worries, all of my stories, surrendering me, bowing only for thee. After that first pranam, I remember vividly looking straight into the eyes of who became my Guru. I was surprised to see a mirror, a very clean and clear mirror. I didn't see a personality. I didn't bow for a personality. Rather, I saw my own vibrating, loving essence smiling back at me. From that point on, for me it was clear, what is the role of the Guru? He is there to clearly reflect who I really am, free of the story, the blame and the shame. And I returned to my Guru over and over again because I needed his reminders so badly. Yet, knowing that ultimately we are the same and share and gather around the same vibrating essence, love itself. Guru doesn't only mean heavy. The ancient Advara Taraka Upanishad states, quote, "The syllable gu means darkness. The syllable ru means who dispels them. Because of the power to dispel darkness, the Guru is thus named." Unquote. So, if there is one essential function of the Guru, it is to dispel darkness or ignorance and illuminate consciousness. However, the most common use of the word Guru indicates simply a teacher. The Guru today in India is simply a teacher, a master, or someone who is an expert in his field. And that field isn't restricted to spirituality. It is, for example, very common in India to call your music teacher your guru. However, traditionally in Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism, Yoga, Tantra, and the many streams of Hinduism, the guru is the key figure for spiritual initiation. When one feels the calling for spirituality, the first and most important step is the meeting with the guru traditionally. Shaktipat, the descent of grace and the kickstart for walking the spiritual path, traditionally mostly happens through the grace of the Guru. Meeting the Guru and receiving initiation may trigger such a profound awakening that this very meeting is seen as the very initiating factor. So much that the Guru is actually recognized as God Himself. It is God moving, singing, and speaking through flesh and bones. It is God that made Himself utterly accessible through taking on a form of a human being. I know this is a hard pill to swallow for the Western mind. But for a moment, try to leave your red flags aside and look at the opportunities that such an approach may bear. If, really, God is among us right now, inside of a human body, we found the ultimate object of devotion. That object isn't actually a still object, but a dynamic, organic, alive human being. A being that's not merely familiar with divine bliss, but knows and understands human suffering too. If this guru is a true guru, he or she must have a deep, compassionate understanding of your suffering, and he must have gone through it himself. Therefore, this being might be a more effective guide than any non-corporal or non-human being. He or she might be highly effective in leading you from darkness to light. A truthful guru isn't interested in polishing his personality and should only be interested in awakening the guru within you. Because yes, ultimately, divine wisdom or the essential guru lives within you already. And it is the goal of the Guru to awaken that realization, the acknowledgement that truly the Guru and you are not different. The Guru and you are equally divine. Ultimately, all is divine. It is the goal of the Guru to point towards the recognition that you are already divine and complete, and thus it is the ultimate goal of the Guru to liberate you from the attachment to the Guru himself. Ultimately, indeed, you don't need a Guru. However, this area of thought is tricky territory for spiritual seekers. Many modern-day spiritual seekers often believe that the Guru isn't supposed to be another human being. Rather, it is the all-knowing, ever-wise Guru within. You are your own Guru, you know? All of the wisdom, all of the sacred knowledge, all of the guidance really is already inside. You were born with it, so how could anyone ever teach you what you are? I get it, and it's a good point, but it usually overlooks a major pitfall. Your conditioning is deep and complex. I mean, my conditioning is really deep and complex, and up until this point in my life, I've seen deep programming in every single human being I ever met. Deeply ingrained mental, emotional, social, and cultural patterns. And this matrix is deeply anchored, beyond the scope of our waking consciousness. And the more we become conscious, the more do we become aware of the vastness and the impact of this matrix. And so, when I would state that I am my own guru, who in me is actually saying this? From which place am I actually speaking? Am I really anchored in the non-dual consciousness, completely liberated from fear and mental conditioning? I mean, if you're not sure, ask your partner or your parents. They might offer you a mirror. Are you fully liberated and are you your own trustable guru? Surely you can, but usually this anchoring precedes a thorough and profound deconstruction process that involves a complete transformation of everything you believe yourself to be. Usually, with rare exceptions, this process also involves a strong spiritual practice and could also involve living in close approximation to other human beings that paved this path before you. So yes, surely you could state that you are your own guru. If you're anchored in the ultimate truth, you can. But let's be honest, all too quickly, before we truly notice, an inner character loves to run away with the prize. One of the most deceptive and elusive characters of all. The spiritual ego. I am my own guru. Sounds very profound. And you could probably impress your fellow spiritual seekers with this statement, right? So let's just be vigilant. And we may conclude here that the inner guru is not at all accessible all of the time for most people. So most people could actually benefit from surrendering to a guru. I know, to some people this still sounds weird or naive, surrendering to a guru. But remember, you don't have to surrender to a personality. Please don't surrender to a personality. You surrender to God. It takes courage to surrender. It takes courage to surrender. It takes strength to set aside your pride. It takes wisdom to recognize the wise. It takes humility to drop at the feet of another being. It takes trust to empty yourself, getting ready to be filled. It takes power to allow your ego to be killed. And it takes compassion to allow the flow of the master. Yes, this last statement is one you probably never heard before. It takes compassion to allow the flow of the master. You never heard this one because the guru is pretty much always depicted as a perfected being. Why wouldn't he be able and allowed to make mistakes? I would argue that there isn't anything like a fixed, stationary perfection. There isn't anything like a fixed, stationary, perfected state. It's a fantasy, a castle in the air. It's exactly this fantasy that puts tremendous pressure on the human character of the guru. If the guru presents himself as a perfected being and he presents it well, devotees will believe it. And the more devotees give in to this story, the more pressure this character will experience, and he tries to live up to this impossible perfect image. His subconscious shadow tendencies will come out highly exaggerated, creating extremely disturbed and harmful situations. The more subconscious shadow tendencies are still lingering, the more harmful will be the outcome. And a strong illusionary perfect image stemming from the group of devotees contributes big time to this harmful outcome too. Such a collective illusionary image may actually be a huge obstacle for the guru to transmit the pure love and wisdom he aims to carry out. So the guru and the devotee have responsibility. Now you might think, wait, these devotees are innocent. Isn't it the guru that should know better? And exactly this is giving away your power. This is childish. And although as a devotee you're always a bit childlike, you are a grown-up adult and should take responsibility for your choices. And the guru has his responsibility. Of course, we should not tolerate any abusive actions of the guru. But hey, can't we accept and forgive small mistakes of this human being? Could we recognize him as a human being too? A guru that makes no longer any mistake might simply be a human being that didn't show his full face yet. Could we set the guru free from this idealized throne of perfection? Could we humanize the guru without deifying him? Humanizing the guru could actually minimize his mistakes and maybe contribute to a truly great guru, an authentic guru. It could contribute to a truly healthy spiritual environment with a strong and authentic leader. Yes, we need leaders, authentic and honest leaders. But more than leaders, we need students, good students, people that are brave enough to surrender, humble enough to truly openly listen, and patient enough to find the depth of the teachings. And then maybe, at one day, the student may become a teacher, a leader, a guide, a helpful guide. Yes, perhaps more than ever before in these crazy times, we do need spiritual guidance. If you believe we as humanity need healing, liberation, and awakening, then yes, we do need the guru. The guru can lead you to a place beyond selfishness and your self-indulging stories. The Guru might and should lead you to a place of loving service. While the protecting light of vigilance smolders, ever present in the background, let's honor our teachers. Practicing true love may start with gratitude for the teachings you receive. Gratitude for the being that transmits it. Gratitude for all the effort and dedication this human being poured into the practice and study that allows you now to heal and awaken. Gratitude for the teacher of your teacher. Gratitude for all the teachers that went before. When I studied Nepalese shamanism in the Himalayas years ago, I remember well that every single morning the shaman would sing devotionally 7 names. These were the 7 names of the gurus before him. These were the 7 names of his forefathers that were simultaneously his gurus. Just like the Himalayan shamans, may we honor and respect the line of masters through which we receive transmission. Whether that line is a traditional guru lineage, or your family line, or a single meditation teacher, or a non-corporeal entity that speaks to you, or God itself, or anything or anyone really that serves you as a spiritual guide. Guru, teacher, master, guide. Right now, I thank you. By your grace, I came to know the path. By your grace, I walk in peace now. By your grace, I am truly able to give. By your grace, I dare to bow. By your grace, I am. Thank you all for being here with me. If you like to share your experience, please do so in the comments or send me an email or drop in for one of the live events. Soon there are 2 silence and sound retreats coming up, 5 days of meditation, music, live teachings, and community. There is still space for both retreats, so check it out on my website, suryanada.com. The music you heard in this episode was again created by myself, with the exception of the Wild West guitar music from Anastasia Shubarova, and the last song you heard was live at the annual Mahashivaratri celebration at our center. This song was a cover song from the Muji band. If you like this content, please support through a donation or simply by sharing this podcast with your friends. Thank you all for listening. Stay tuned. Stay blessed.